Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Flashpoint Q&A. You know, some of you are probably here because you decided to follow this stream as a result of Valorant, but who knows if we're ever going to have Valorant on this stream again. So instead, you get...
Plus, me and you wouldn't be on the fucking stream if it was Valorant anyway, Monty, so I think we sorted that out for people immediately, haven't we?
So yeah, we're here. We're going to answer all of your questions that we can about Flashpoint 2, or potentially about other things, depending on if you have questions for Thorin and Nifty. And you know what? I think the people might have a few questions for Thorin and Nifty or friberg, yes. Right? Because there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot going on, especially in the world of Envy, Nifty. So why don't you tell us? Straight from
I just hope there's not any more clips coming, mate, because here's the thing, Nifty. All I'm going to say is people forget there was 1,000 demos to go, and there's still people coming out. So listen, bro. And if you want to tell us
confess now. Confess. This is your time. Well, this is the great Inquisition of Counter-Strike. Confess to your sins. Legia, what did he do?
Oh,
what
God. I really hope that Legia did not do anything like that. because he's now on our active roster.
No player, that's the problem. You'd be ultra fucked, dude. Yeah,
I know, that would suck. No, man, Envy's been going crazy. Our Call of Duty team, Dallas Empire, just won the world championship.
They did.
That was fantastic.
So what prize did they all get? Didn't one of them get like unemployment?
Yeah, one of them did get unemployment. Unfortunately,
that was from like a diamond ring or something.
Nifty,
you know,
are you
hit the streets?
now that the Dallas Empire team is like top tier, are you gonna move over back to COD? I gotta know.
No, only because the people that we have on our team are all superstars.
To be fair, when I watch my boy Legia play, I sometimes wonder if Counter-Strike should be 4v4 when MV plays. He's a good coach. That's what I'm saying. He's a good coach. He's a good coach. Just leave it at that. So,
we're starting hard today.
Okay.
We haven't even gotten into the questions about the cheating and the scandal. Right. It's beautiful already. So you're not switching back to COD.
No, not switching back to COD, but
is one of the COD players going to switch to Counter-Strike?
Yep, they're coming to CS. Actually, we're going to pick Clay up as our fifth. Because he's a big advocate of Counter-Strike. He watches it all the time ever since like 2015. You know, that's why he likes me so much. He's like, damn, dude, thank God you left this game. Yeah, man, Dallas Empire is going great. We're making some strides here with our Counter-Strike team. Things are going to be getting going pretty soon. I'm very excited for it. So, yeah, it's been a long time, honestly, without like playing, and it's like it sucks. It sucks, but it's I think I spoke about it a little bit last time, like just being able to fill your time, you know, appropriately, and like taking care of yourself and doing all those things. That's kind of been my life, you know, just like improving outside the game as much as I can, as well as like watching all the Counter-Strike. Cologne was awesome. Cologne was literally awesome to watch, all the different regions. You know, EG taking the dub, or was it EG? Am I tripping?
Yes, it was EG over Liquid and NA, okay. And then it was
3-2, right?
Over Heroic over Vitality.
It was really fun to watch Heroic. It was really fun to watch Heroic. Borup is a beast. All those different guys, they shoot hard, man.
The thing is I love about their team is they used to just be a bunch of like, you know, also rans or up and coming players, and they never really had the chance to win. But the thing with Hunden is, right, as a coach, is it's his vision for the game. It's like he's above everyone, just looking down, seeing everything that's happening before it happens, just knowing where to go. The guy's a genius. The way he picks off rotation, fucking hell. I don't know.
I thought you would take away on that segue.
Whatever.
In a way, you know,
I thought we cleared that up soon.
This whole ordeal has been interesting for Flashpoint, because on the one hand, guys, I was watching IEM Cologne and with a deep sadness that Heroic was not, in fact, our current Fun Plus Phoenix roster, right?
That's the first thing I thought, mate, when they won. It's like, dude, they're supposed to be in our league.
So, God damn it, was my first thought. And then my second thought was Hunden gets banned, and I'm like, oh, that could have been us too. So, you know, we split the difference in the old PR category on that one.
True.
So, yeah.
Also, by the way, as people don't know, as weird as this sounds, actually MIBR might be the only team where it's actually not a big deal that their coach got banned, because really, like, Dead wasn't really their coach. Like, he was just their manager, and he just sort of took the role because someone has to be in the server. Like, they haven't got a coach, basically. So that's actually not actually much of a punishment for him. He just can't be in this. Like, they're probably going to get a real coach soon anyway, I assume.
The only reason I got really nervous when this started happening is like, dude, we're already like the Counter-Strike scene as a whole is low on coaches. I'm like, I really hope not too many go because then we're gonna be in big trouble.
I mean, I honestly didn't even know about it until like 2 weeks ago because I think that was the point when all the coaches started getting it. Like Fiflaren, just like what? I'm stuck somewhere like 2 weeks ago, and this apparently has been out for a long time. We're just too old, I guess. Like we don't know about all these bugs. Like,
thing is, though, didn't someone say that? Like, didn't someone say it was like the old one? I think it was something like the old bug was the one that happens randomly, and it happens if you like lose the round. But apparently, it was like a very recently that there was that new one where like actually you can like trigger it and just stay there for all the rounds, which is what that hard legion fucker was doing, just like the whole game or whatever. So I think even the one in the past wasn't, because you know now everyone's getting like conspiracy fever and trying to figure out like if in like 2015 Fnatic used done something stupid, like you're probably going too deep on that one, guys. If it existed as a bug, like I say, it was a random one, and actually people just didn't know why it was happening. We're just like, what the fuck's going on? And I would assume most people probably didn't use it. Like, I don't think that many more names are going to come out personally. Maybe a couple.
I bet the thought that it's inspiring the most in most people is like, what other bugs are out there that we don't know?
For sure.
You know, it's like everyone's mind is going now. The gears are on turn. So.
Yeah, but
I did think that was where Reddit just really shit themselves. Because I saw people trying to make threads like, now Big should be banned for using a bug where the Molotov goes on top and doesn't damage you. Like, that's not even a bug in that sense. It's the fact he was cheating with the bug, guys. It's not just using bugs. We're all doing that. Technically, shooting through the wall shouldn't be allowed. Like, come on.
And also, Reddit chimes in and bans all Brood War players who have ever played the game for exploiting bugs in order to actually make Dragoons cross bridges or group up.
It's basically part of being a pro. As long as it's not something that makes you cheat, it's fine, isn't it? Just part of being a pro.
I mean, but what we said about in our team was like, well, imagine if you have like a coach which has like a wall hack, which VAC does, because a lot of these online tournaments that we've been playing recently, they don't have any anti-cheat. Like you just join the server, it's ebot ready to go, and you just play. And we're like, okay, well, fair enough. I mean, we don't expect people to be cheating, and we don't go into with the mindset that teams are cheating.
He still uses VAC, though, right? Like,
yes, VAC.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
but just in case people think you mean turned everything off. But basically, unless you have like a public cheat, you're probably not going to get banned.
I mean, they're not using, like Faceit anti-cheat or ESCA anti-cheat or whatever. So basically, it's like, you join the server and you're like, okay, well, we don't assume any of the players are using it, but like a coach could use wallhack. I mean, there's always this possibility, and that's why like online play, it's so bad. And it's not only about like this coach bug. Like we were talking about it as well. Like imagine how many teams like during this online stage are using like streams, because they have like 30-40 seconds delay sometimes.
By the way,
like,
spoiler, there literally is a clip where Dead is also watching like the fucking blast stream while he's playing the game. So all I'm gonna say is I didn't make that video, Brazilians. It exists. So.
Yeah, no, but I mean, imagine
that was massive assumption that I bet loads of coaches did that one.
It's also coaches talking during the games too, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Like you could literally have. I mean, I saw some clips from, for example, Threat from NIP. I think that he's doing a lot of the micromanaging and stuff like that, which obviously improves all the like mid-round executes when the coach can micromanage every single nade and every person that throws it.
They got like twice as good when they went online, mate. They got way better when they went online.
It's just an example. I think like most teams take it to their advantage. Like all the teams can have their coaches talk, and it's stupid not to have them talk. But like imagine like the change when you go back to a LAN event and all the IGLs are sitting there like, whoa, like are they on eco now? Because they've been watching all the streams. They don't know about the economy. They're like, wait, we need to pause. Like, let's do a double tactical timeout here because we need to figure out if they're on eco or not. Like, I mean, I can't just wait for the LAN season to come back. I'm so tired of this online play, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and that's why I tweeted out when this was revealed. I was like, yeah, we caught this one, but this is why no one takes these results seriously online. Like, this is why we can't have nice things in 2020. It's why every result has to have an asterisk behind it in every single esport, because this is the one we caught. There are going to be tons that we haven't caught, realistically.
Plus, by the way, another thing people don't get is, like, as friberg said there, it's not even that people wondered if the coaches are watching the stream. It's just obvious that some of them would, the ones who are unethical. Similarly, it's obvious that they're going to all talk during the whole game. Like, there's a million, like, little advantages you could basically get that, like, are sort of like cheating, but they're only like questionably unethical. So it's like you have to assume a lot of people were doing that anyway. Like if people don't realize, technically you could do all this stuff online. It's just way harder. Like obviously online you could still have the person, a friend, watch the stream, and yeah, he'd be like 30 seconds behind, but he could tell you what the buy was, or send you a message like, oh, they did like this buy last round, so they're going to be an equal like friberg. So technically there's always ways to do this. It's just that when everyone's at home and the stakes in some ways are higher because everyone's just trapped at home and all you can do is play these online games. It just means anyone who's questionable is probably going to do it, unfortunately. You have to just assume it.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess we're the only team that has a 100% win rate on LAN in 2020. Played one game and that was in Flashpoint.
Real lineup.
I do have a question.
I mean, okay, not for lineup.
Since we're talking about online play, and I haven't been able to participate in that, but I'm just curious, friberg, from your perspective, like, what kind of like, are there any like really big challenges that Dignitas has faced like through this online period, or anything major that's like been different that you learned, or any like challenges that are different from typical LAN play?
I mean, mainly the teams, they like, especially when you play like tier 2, tier 3 level teams, they just like, you try to think like if you were playing like actual smart level CS, but you're just like having people running out like everywhere, and it's just like basically like what we started doing is starting to practice against like really low, like lower level teams to just learn, because we were literally sitting like, these goddamn Russians, like we played with like, you know, Russians like tier 2, they're insane, like they're just running and gunning and they're shooting really hard, and like you have to like learn how to play against that. You can't just sit and practice against like the top tier 1 teams.
It's very tough.
Yeah, but also like, I don't know, I think online, like people play fearless, people play, you know, I think it's just different, and also like it's hard. I think it's more like fun. You get more like the feeling of playing when you're sitting next to each other. We haven't had the opportunity to boot camp, unfortunately. But like I think just like being around each other, like not seeing each other, not like being able to fix problems like right here, right now, like you would do on a LAN or like in a boot camp. I think that's also one of the biggest like things that sucks with just playing online all the time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you.
So thing is, though, that's one thing I've actually mentioned the same thing, friberg, on some past episodes, that basically people don't know. Because I always say it to the NA players who've never been in boot camped in Europe, I'm like, you're going to come to Europe and you're going to think you're some hot chicks, you're like the 7th best team in the world, but you will lose. I literally said exactly that. You will lose to some no-name Russian team in scrims, and you'll think they're cheating, but they're not. That's just how they fucking play the game. The meta is so different, and they do just shit that no one would ever do at a LAN. Like, just alien stuff. But that's the thing people don't get. Like, here's an example. So everyone was memeing on MIBR when they lost ESL Cologne and then played in those cups and then lost to like no-name Polish teams. Dude, there are a lot of really good teams could lose those games. I guarantee you. Like, people would be shocked by some of the like world-class teams that could. We're only talking about losing one series or something against a team you've never played. Like, that could easily happen to some people.
I mean, for example, for our team, we have started going back to a lot more strat-heavy playbook than what we've had the past couple of months recently. And I think one of the things that I've noticed, like trying to find like a new strat or something, I don't look at like the tier 1 teams. I probably won't even look at anything that happened during, for example, ESM1 Cologne. I will go back and I will check like these tier 2, tier 3 tournaments, because those like low-level teams, or lower, I should say, level teams, they have insane strats, they have insane flashes, and like, you know, small tips and tricks which you could actually use. And I've already found so much which like I don't think top teams know about. So it's really cool to like see those kind of things like coming out of like especially the European or like CIS region. There's so much skill in Europe, like in the like tier 2, tier 3 scene for sure.
It's kind of
Nifty. He wasn't watching NA, so he didn't steal anything from you.
No, there's nothing to look for here, man. I'm sorry, but no, it's really like that, huh? Like with the lower level teams, like they know that they have to do something to get a little bit of an edge over the competition, especially if they're going to play teams that are better than them, you know. And it's like you really can find like insane strats and really cool like nade spots and different just plays and like angles and CT setups from these teams. It's really interesting actually, because you actually maybe most of the time find more off of a team like that, you know, than some of the top teams, because some of the top teams kind of just get lazy and they all just kind of copy each other. So they're all doing the same stuff. You know, the only team really that I see outstanding over the rest of the top teams is like Big. You know, Big does like a lot of their own stuff. They're originators, but I think they also do a lot of that, like looking at lower level teams, you know, and finding cool stuff like that. Like, but it's really interesting how that works, huh?
Yeah,
Dude, I agree. I think that's even. I would even give it like a pro example. I'm not joking. There is obviously way more you could take if you were like an IGL of a team from Cloud9 than from FaZe Clan. Because you would have never heard of the Cloud9 guys if they were just playing, like, they don't have Nico and fucking Cold Zero. Like, FaZe Clan's playing like FPL Counter-Strike and a bit of tactics here and there. Like, Cloud9 actually has executes, like tons of like weird, they have to have all the new Molotovs, the smoke
they have
counters. Like,
flashbangs.
that's why they're here. Yeah.
They have,
like
they have the best flash assists, like flash assists per round, whatever stat there is on HLTV. They are like the number one. Like, that's one of the teams, like, for example, I would go on, look for flashes, and then Cloud9 is the best, and I would download a Cloud9 demo and like find good flashes, like if you need someone. That's kind of like what Thorin is saying. Like, they don't have like maybe the most individually skilled players, but that doesn't mean like team play in a team that's not like a top 5 team in the world. That's not like they have like 6 strats, have 6 flashes, they have 6 like small things that happen in a round that makes them like outplay a top tier team. That's why they like, for example, Cloud9 is a great example. Like, they're still putting up great numbers against the best teams in the world in NA.
All right, if you guys quickly, if you guys have any questions for friberg or Nifty or Thorin or me, questions about when Flashpoint 2 is, answer is most likely starting end of November at this point. We're trying to have a LAN, guys, so we're attempting to figure that out to make sure that we can get no audience, but at least the players on site for that one. So
I have antibodies. I'm good. Just send me on a plane. I'll come.
You've been through it already?
Yeah, apparently. I didn't even know I had it, but I took a test and I had like they even said I might have had it like during March, April, and that was like when I was in Flashpoint for the first season.
When you were like, by the way, when you were quarantined in your own team house and not infecting anybody at Flashpoint. So
Gifford also had it, I think.
let's get that out of the way. The reason why we moved all the teams into the team houses and didn't put you guys in the studio is so you wouldn't spread your pestilence to us.
Exactly. That's why it was a great decision by Flashpoint. Yes, exactly. It was a great decision by Flashpoint
to keep
smart. Our apartment.
Yes. Should be applauded.
No, that has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with it. Like, yes. I was just putting it out there, but like, it's just insane. Team, like, I don't know. Like, have you guys watched the NHL, the ice hockey? How they've done it? Like, they've had like a bubble. I think that could be literally be doable. Like, if you have like a smaller size like hotel or something ish. I think there's a way to do it. Obviously, there's like you need to do it like with funding. You need to have a hotel for a period of time. If you could have like a smaller hotel where all the players, all the staff, everyone could live, and you could have like a a conference room or something where you could set up everything. I think it's doable, but look at, it's obviously different between NHL. They've rented like 3 of the biggest hotels in Toronto and Edmonton or Vancouver. So.
Right. So Get Right is asking in the chat. It did get deleted, so you guys can't see it, but I can because I'm a mod. So he said, if Atlanta is going to happen, how will security for the issues happen to avoid? So this is it, like what you're talking about, friberg. So we're looking at options of how to create like a bubble environment. So there's several things that we need to consider when we're thinking about this. Obviously, one is the studio, right? So we need to make sure that that's like a secure environment. 2 is that the players and staff, like you're saying, are all in sort of the same hotel or environment so that we can kind of seal you guys off. And then we also have to think about practice facilities. We also have to think about entertainment because you guys are going to be there for a number of weeks. So how are we going to keep you guys occupied, or like when you have time off where you're not practicing, are we going to have, various like if you look at the NBA bubble, they have like film rooms where you can watch movies and like all this other stuff. So how are we going to keep you guys occupied during that time? We'll just expand the blind spot so you guys have a place to drink at all times. I'm not joking about that. We are going to do that. We're actually just going to make the a larger bar basically as part of our set so that you guys have a place to hang out and have a beer and watch some of the games when you're not playing. So these are all things that we need to consider. But yeah, it's tough is the answer. It's very tough.
I believe in you guys. Be able to make it happen.
And then also, regular testing of everybody, right? Temperature checks all the time, tests all the time, etc. So it's it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. Will Flashpoint have a betting sponsor for NA fans to take part in now that sports betting has been legalized across many states? Right now, Pinnacle is our partner.
I think that's a UK company, though. Or something,
it is a UK company. So we will see if that is an opportunity in the future. However, our betting partner is Pinnacle at the moment, and they're great. What a great partner they are.
Also, I think it depends where you live anyway. Like, I don't think all the states even have esports betting, right?
Yeah, it is state by state now. It's one of those things that eventually will just be legal across America. So,
still can't believe weed is legal before fucking like video game betting or something like. The priorities are so off, aren't they? I know.
I know it is crazy that you can't like place a bet on an NFL game, but well,
not least
fair, that's state by state as well. That's state by state as well, right? It's
like, I won't lie, it is.
Yet.
It is also, yeah, you're right. Technically, it's technically not actually legal in the country. It just bizarrely is if the federal police don't come in. But there's the weird, because for me, it'll always be weird because obviously it's the opposite in my country. Like, betting's been legal my whole life, but obviously weed isn't. So I just find it amazing that it's the opposite way around completely. But whatever. It's whatever, isn't it?
Like DraftKings, I think, is only legal like a few states, even.
Yeah.
Well, it was legal, and then they made it illegal, and now it's like somewhat legal again.
Back
the
and forth,
daily fantasy sports thing, which also would be great for esports.
It would be the shit,
for the entire industry. It'd be amazing. It was actually amazing. Thorin and I back in the day had a daily fantasy esports sponsorship when it was legal in the States. So that was fun.
Everything's legal here in Texas, it seems like. Besides Texas Hold'em, apparently. But
or weed. They haven't legalized weed in Texas, have they?
No. But everything else, like, it's actually kind of crazy. I was just at a gun range yesterday, actually. I went to a gun range, and it's actually kind of crazy. Like, there's kids going around in these gun ranges.
That's America, buddy.
18 years old, you can walk in, you can buy an assault rifle.
Listen, I'm not going to drop dime on anyone or out anyone, but all I'm going to say is, Nifty, it might not be legal, mate, but I've been to Austin before, mate. There was no problems.
Oh, Austin's a different
there was a lot going on there. That's all I'm going to say.
A different breed, but look, it doesn't matter what the law say. It feels like in Texas, people still just do whatever the hell they want. Texas, it's like our own country within a country. It's really kind of it's very interesting living here. But I love Texas, man.
So watch the Pop Flash Invitational and the surprising amount of content we had ready for that tournament. Are we doing that for Flashpoint, Thorin? Yes.
Probably more.
I
would hope.
Yeah, we have more money for Counter-Strike than we do for Valorant.
In fact, the cool thing in that sense is, obviously, with the whole Valorant thing, I mean, like, I won't say any behind-the-scenes details, but basically, like, that took a long time just to secure the tournament and to get the dates set. So, unfortunately, you couldn't really start creating content on day one because you don't know who the teams are and where it's going to be. Whereas the difference is, for Flashpoint 2, assuming it's the dates Monty says, well, think about how many months that is away. Like, me and him are already planning what we're going to do and getting the budget and getting all bit. So, I'm hoping, especially for, like, video content that doesn't need us there in person, that we can just get some of that done even before we go to the venue. Like, we just have it ready and in the can. That would be ideal.
Correct. So yeah, we will be doing a bunch more shoulder content for Flashpoint 2. Absolutely is the answer. Let's see here.
If you guys, I have a question. If you guys like would have to go online for the autumn season, so you never know what's happening. It might be like a big second wave coming in wherever.
Yeah.
Like, what would you guys want, like, the teams to do? Like, would you have all the teams trying to go to, like, a boot camp, or would you just, like, let everyone play at home to be more safe, or would it be, like, webcams, try to make it... I think that, like, all the organizers, like, all the other organizers recently have stepped up with, like, webcams. They have stepped up with, like, interviews and stuff like that. So I think that they have, in a way, shown that you could actually have a decent broadcast, even though people are at home. And like still using webcams, still having a pre-game.
But we have one fatal flaw, unfortunately, that they don't, which is we have to use the partner teams, right? And most of them are in NA, and then a couple are in Europe. So unfortunately, if you split it like ESL did, it would make ours even more like talent washed out. It would mean the teams we'd probably have to put in would just be qualifier teams. So it's not impossible that we could still get some teams that if it's online, maybe some of the EPL teams play it. But it might actually make Flashpoint like I don't know if it's worth running the LAN if we make the talent even worse. Like. We've got to, we have to go the other direction, guys. We can't go the other. We're going to have some good teams.
Loved watching the blind spot segments last season. Are you guys doing that again? Yes. Talent will definitely be in person. So regardless of what friberg
that
is
should
saying,
be a permanent part of Flashpoint, essentially.
Yes.
That's our plan, right?
Yeah. Regardless of the current situation, if we can have players on LAN, we will do what we did with Pop Flash this last week and have talent on set. That would be the bare minimum, unless like truly this thing gets like majorly out of control, right? But it's easier just to have talent because there aren't that many of us in the studio, so it's it's an easier to control environment because there's a lot fewer people. Because obviously we can do Flashpoint with like 10 or 12 casters, but we can't do Flashpoint without tons and tons of players, like 60, 70 players, right, with coaches. So it's a lot easier just to do the talent in the studio. But yes, blind spot, unless Thorin wants to change his mind on it, I think it's a really fun part of Flashpoint. Ideally, we'd like to do it every day, maybe do some shows like blind spot shows in the future for other events too, like do a blind spot show during the major or something like that. But we'll see if that happens.
That's the thing people might not realize. Not only do we plan to do what we did before, but that was actually a very limited version of what we did because we had to scale it down because there was only us in the studio. We had no player access. Like they would join us via call, but that didn't work as well as the people in the studio did it. So like we would definitely do not only a better version of that, hopefully everyone in person, but we'd also do, like Monty's alluding to, some other concepts that would involve the same set and the same kind of vibe, basically.
Yes, but for other people's tournaments, right? So if you like the blind spot, maybe we start thinking about doing the blind spot as kind of a, after a day, after every day of the major or something like that.
Think of like the no majors clubs like scenario, but if this was like a post show to another one. So it was not our show, but we do add our own content essentially too. It could be an ESL event, who knows?
Who knows? We can't do blind spot drinking contests because that will be against Twitch and YouTube regulations. So first off, it would be a bad idea because we would say something. And then second off, you actually can't binge drink on those platforms. Otherwise, they ban your content.
And also, we have Danish people in this tournament. Like, some American guy's going to die, isn't he? Like, there's no point having a contest there.
Oh, my God.
Virtual fan screens like WWE or NBA. I know Blast has been doing that.
What do you think of that, Monty? Because I have to say, I know people like it because they probably are in that chat as well. I think that part is whack as fuck when it goes like, and it's like the same MIBR fan who a minute ago was cheering for him. He's just like putting a different shirt. And it's like, he's like, yes, complexity. It's like, I think those are, I know the premise, but I don't think they work. I think they're kind of a bit too wacky. So, what do you think?
I have a policy of no plebs.
There we go then. That takes care of that. So
I prefer my broadcast to be pleb-free environments, right? So if you want to get on, a call with your friends and change jerseys every 3 minutes, that's fine. And if Blast wants to do it, that's fine. I don't think we would be doing it. But you never, who knows? Maybe we'll find a creative way or a fun way to integrate something like that. Here's a question for you, Nifty. Who is IGL, you or Legia?
I will be IGL, but Legia will kind of be like that co-leader, which is very good because honestly, that's kind of something that in a lot of my rosters, even in the past, I have lacked, and I think it's very important to have a co-leader. That way, you can kind of bounce your ideas off of each other, and you can build this system together. Obviously, you have to work well together, but Nico and I get along really well. And he sees the game a very different way than I do, and that's very good. And so does Mihu. Honestly, Mihu in his own right is kind of like a co-leader as well. But it's really nice because, dude, I'm very impressed by like some of the conversations I've had with Kubin as well. We've been his vision for just like how a team should grow and develop and kind of the steps that we should take. It aligns with a lot of mine, which is very interesting because it's weird. I can say that like I don't know who necessarily I could expect that from, but I didn't expect it from Kubin. I expected something totally different, but what the fuck are expectations, right? But man, it's going to be seriously a fun time for me. I think like working with both Nico in the server and then Kubin outside in terms of structurally and working with the players to help them improve and help myself improve both inside the server and outside the server.
By the way, I could totally believe actually that Mihu might be like. I know people don't know him much as a player because he's like a pretty quiet guy and obviously
he doesn't talk much.
But there's the thing: I could actually believe that he has like a pretty good mind for the game because I guarantee this guy has to A, do his homework, and B, has good game sense. Because this is not a joke. When he was joining Virtus Pro, right, when I wanted to do a video, I went and watched like a bunch of POVs of him. And mate, bearing in mind he's like the entry, and he was like the hard entry for the teams he was playing it for. He has the lowest sensitivity probably any entry fragger ever has used. It's ridiculous. You can confirm it's right. It's
I think he's on 0.4 on 400.
There you go. So that means when this guy runs out on Mirage and he checks like Shadow, the guy can't be sandwiched, or he's just dead 100%. Like he's never going to flick, is he?
He doesn't lose duels, man. He doesn't lose duels. Like if you're
probably just locked on the guy's head. You have to move the whole pad to move like 1 millimeter.
But it's weird because I play on a higher sensitivity, like 2.2, and when I watch him play, like if I just watch his like arm movement on the mouse pad, it doesn't look as drastic. It's like, dude, okay. I have the same arm movement. like what's going on here? You know, it's like
I played with players in my past, which like I was like, yeah, you can dodge flash here, and I'll like take the first peek for you. And they're like, no, let me just swap. I'll take the first peek. I was like, oh, he has too low to sensitivity to turn when a flash comes. It's like maybe it's time to up your sensitivity. I don't understand, but like even how like people manage to play with it.
I was genuinely surprised, you know, when I first learned. Like, wow, like okay, but he's very good, so.
Yeah.
All right, we have to talk a little bit about the bans against teams and coaches. So what we have learned so far is that we have not found this exploit in any of the Flashpoint demos that were reviewed. So as far as we are aware at the current time, it has not been any evidence of cheating in our event. Now, that said, ESIC put out a tweet today saying that they would be upholding the ESL bans as well. We have not come to a decision on that yet, but we are talking about it, and so we will have an official stance on that soon.
Yeah, I'll just say on that, think about it if you're a fan, right? The problem is we're not in the same position as EPL, etc., where they are the TO, but they're up here, they make the rules, and if you're a team, just like a player, you have to take whatever they give you. The problem is Flashpoint is also partially owned by teams like MIBR, so I personally, put it this way, if this was just the Thorin League, and I had all total control, one day maybe, we'll see, then I would just say, yeah, fucking mirror all the bans. If you do something wrong, it should be upheld. And, but the problem is it's trickier than that. I mean, there's probably even business considerations. So like maybe they get to have a say in it. I don't know. So we're going to, unfortunately, we're going to have to explore all of that before we can really make a statement. But I wouldn't be against it if, assuming people are amenable. I think it's a pretty good idea to mirror bans around the scene. So it means that you can't just do something in one tournament and go, haha, jokes on you all, just play this other league. Like, I think it's better to just mirror if you know that the person really did the crime and it's proven, you know.
Also, we didn't know that this was happening. Like, this statement from ESL was coming out. So we're reacting to it. Obviously, they had a lot of time to review and think about their own, work with Valve and work on their own stuff. So just to be, totally sure, considering it just happened a couple days ago, we need to conduct a certain level of our own investigation to verify, right? And kind of get all the details before we can really do anything. So that's that. Would the ECS ban for this coach cheat bug follow through to Flashpoint? That's what we're discussing.
That's what you just said, yeah. I actually do have a question regarding the bans that I want to ask these two guys, because here's the funny thing. For obvious reasons, fans from the country the people banned tended to side with like, oh, we should make the punishments lighter. Like, oh, they only cheated for one round in the World Championship qualifier, like fucking insane comments like that. But I noticed actually a lot of pros were going the other way. The pros that didn't do it and the coaches that didn't do it, some of them were like, permaban these fuckers. Like, imagine if they did it against me. So what do you guys actually think? Like, obviously we're talking about other people who are your colleagues and stuff and people other peers, but would you go for a harsher punishment? Do you think the punishments they gave were fair? Where do you come down?
I think, like, for me, the biggest, like, issue is, like, if you have a coach saying, oh, don't go mid, go back, everyone, like, all of a sudden, randomly, that would start to lead, like, questions like, oh, okay, why? It's like, because he sees something, like, for example, like I talked about before, like, does a coach have wall hack, or is he cheating? Why would he do some, like, call like that? Like, obviously, if you look on some of the, I've only seen like probably even not even half of like everything that's being put out, but the players must be aware. Like if you're a player in a team and your coach is like in the middle, like, and he's saying, "Oh no, you should probably not go here right now, guys. Go back to the other side." Like there must be questions asked, right? They must be aware of like this happening. So for me, it's more like, where does this end? Like, should it only be the coaches, or like, like there's literally gonna be like no proof that like, oh, the players didn't know or the players did know. So I think it's gonna be hard to prove it. But obviously, like this has changed so many results in so many matches. Like, and like Thorin said, for like in the world champ, like in the literal major like qualifier, like I don't know. For me, it's like I'm for stronger punishment. I don't see like, okay, this is a bad example, I guess, but like all the iBuyPower guys, they were throwing for skins like to fuck up like bets, surface wearing for bets and stuff. But isn't this the same thing? Like,
I think this is worse, dude. Like I'm at this point. The game they threw was like a meaningless league game where they'd already qualified for the LAN, and again, it was a scenario where they all like owned the other team. So like it was even like vaguely controlled. The real where the area they fucked up is two areas. One, they fucked up people's bets, so that's actually a literal crime, by the way. And then two, this is like a side issue, but you also in doing that, what was my other point? Let me think. You do the bets. Oh, the other thing they did, this is the big mistake I believe they made. They also didn't just come clean. When they were accused, they kept saying that Richard was lying and doubling down. So just like Dead, I think you should actually get increased punishment if you lie. Like if you get caught, it's one thing if you just say, okay, fair cop, you know, what's what happened, and you take your punishment. If you keep sort of like trying to trick people and imply that you did it, I think you get even bigger punishment. It's same in court. If you go into court and then you were found guilty of something, if you basically tell the judge to go fuck himself and say, I didn't do it anyway, well, they'll give you the harshest punishment possible. They don't give you a light sentence today.
Judges don't like being lied to, turns out.
Exactly.
No, but like, you know, the iBuyPower guys, they made money themselves, but they also made people lose money, but so did this, and probably even more. Like the scene has grown, the betting has grown, like everything around with money involvement has grown so much since that happened. So like if I would be a guy betting on any of those matches that happened, like I would want my money back, or like, you know, that's I would say it's like the same. You know, it's, imagine if something huge came up in another sport where it's also been betting, that would be like lifetime bans as well. Like or super strict as at least. So
I think it's hard because again, it's how much you weight the, you know, the effect of the cheating, and it's hard considering like we can't be of two minds on the online issue. We can't both say like online matches are less important than LAN matches because of the pandemic, and we can't be putting the asterisks on the result and then also treating the cheating as severely as we would if it happened on LAN or something like that, right? Or because we're just saying the events have less weight. So it's tough, right? It's tough.
Yeah.
This topic is very upsetting for me. Like I get sick to my stomach just because I come from a very like different perspective, and it's like I would never be the person dishing out the punishment for something like this. But the reason why it's upsetting is because it's like, regardless of what they've done, like I think that it comes from a very like certain place within that person, you know, because they know what they're doing, you know. So I think it comes from like something that maybe it's selfishness, or it's a place that they've been in their lives, or maybe it's a current place that they're in, and I think that coerces them to make a poor decision. And whether their players know it or not, you know, like I think that they don't necessarily know. You know, they feel like they might get away with it, but it just comes from a bad place. Like if you can understand what I'm saying. So it's like, I'm a person who always believes in like giving someone a second chance or a third chance. Like I always believe that somebody can come back and be like way better than they were before, you know, being well aware of the decisions that they've made. You know, that's why like I feel so uneasy about like the iBuyPower stuff. Like I think that Steel and all those guys like should have been unbanned like ages ago.
Well, I think everybody thinks that.
But
except for
yeah.
Valve.
but I also think that like, and it's like I do understand like what they've done, but what I think that nobody keeps in mind is like the way that esports goes. Like I think that the timeline of things, like everything moves really fast, you know. So like to be banned from something for a year or like 2 years or something like that, like that's a really long time.
Like a 10-year ban in other sports.
That's a really long time, and it really like it sets in with me, you know. And like I feel for them because I don't think that anyone really like deserves to like go through that. Plus, I don't know what happened to warnings, you know, like what happened to like why are there no like private like meetings or conversations, you know, about like, look, we know what you've done. If you do this again, like, you know, you're going to be in big trouble, whatever the case is. But I don't know. It's a very like stressful topic, honestly, for like me to think about.
Yeah, but I think it shows.
Friberg's the Swede, but he's the fucking bleeding heart liberal. Look at him, he's like, they came from a hard background, let him go. Can't we just warn the guys? Like Friberg's going to drop the hammer right now. He's going to
but honestly, for me, this just proves that if people have like press this button to cheat and get away with it, people would fucking press that button, and that makes me so sick. Like, I've never cheated in my entire life playing what I love, and I guess we all spend so much time doing this, and then you get cheated on. That's the thing that upsets me the most.
That's why the decisions on the punishment and everything are like so heavily made, because like competitive integrity is important, and I understand how important it is to like keep the competitive integrity. That's why those decisions are just so hard, and whoever makes them, it's like you kind of got to be like a drop the hammer kind of guy, but like for somebody like me, like I'm gonna have a way different perspective, like if there was a council, it's like, I already know what my vote's gonna be, it's gonna be something where it's like, look, like I think that something better can be made out of this,
I just love it because Nifty here is the rehabilitation candidate with his platform, to a better life, and friberg is the law and order candidate.
Basically, Monty. Basically, Nifty is Professor X and friberg is Magneto. That's the way
exactly.
It goes on this particular case.
I was gonna say, like Nifty never played against Kukli. Nifty never got 16-1 by Kukli back in the days,
And by the way, what friberg just mentioned there is also the other reason you have to maintain competitive integrity. I guarantee when not only these three came out, but more have come out since, sure, most of them low level, I guarantee tons of pros started thinking of the one game they lost where someone did a weird move or I lost it 16-14, he did what. I bet everyone started thinking, and who the fuck wants everyone to start thinking of that way? It's going to make people go paranoid and crazy. It's the same reason, by the way, if people wonder why everyone went, because people forget this now. When the original Flusher clips came out, dude, loads of pros thought he did it. They didn't all say it publicly, only a few of them did. But one of the reasons why is that same feeling. They just thought to themselves, because they were the best team in the world at the time, like, that'll be why they beat me over. And to even have to think that is gross if you're a competitor. You want to at least believe the guy beat you fair and square, not that it's possibly cheated. That's the worst feeling ever, because then, like, even if they punish that guy, you can't go to the final of the tournament now. You can't win. Like, you did get robbed if it really happened,
Yep. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see, for me at least, how, like, especially because I really sincerely hope that Valve will make a statement about it. Like, I don't know if they will go in and be like, okay, let's ban them as well. Like, the Valve bans them from Valve sponsored tournaments as well. But I really do hope, at least for the integrity of the game, and like that Valve is actually showing some sort of willingness to have a competitive scene in Counter-Strike, that they go in and address this issue, because it's been an issue with their game that people has been exploiting. So I think it's up to them. I think that they should probably go out and make a statement about it at least.
Yep. Hard to argue. I honestly thought the bans weren't too bad. Like, the punishment wasn't too bad. It seems pretty reasonable to me. It seemed thoughtful.
Well, there is one component that a lot of people miss, though, Monty. A lot of people, basically, you can tell who skims news posts and who reads them. Because if you're a journalist, you read them, you get the facts, right? The people who skimmed just went to the part about the coaches. So people think the only punishment was like 6 months for Dead, 12 months for 100, and like, I think 24 for the other guy, right? What they missed was the other part below it, where whether the players knew or not, they are disqualified from that tournament. They lose all prize money. And so, for example, in the case of like MIBR, that basically, they were already basically out anyway. They had like a miracle scenario to qualify for the major, but they're 100% out now, basically. Like, I don't think it's even possible points-wise to get in. So, like, that alone, by the way, remember, since we don't know if the players actually benefited, like, luckily most of the teams, like that wasn't like an event heroic what it was like DreamHack Masters or whatever. But, dude, just losing your prize money, if I was a player, I'd be fucking pissed.
Yeah, and this is one of the few times where ESL taking months to pay out prize money actually, worked in their favor.
Exactly. They were just like, right, cancel that. All right, we haven't even sent the checks out. No problem.
Right.
In Flashpoint, we'd be shit all up, dude. There's what you need to know. What would we do in Flashpoint? Like, we've already paid fucking MIBR. Like, if you think we can send Dead a request for him to PayPal back like fucking 200K, I don't know if it's happening, boys. I'm just saying, he might just say, I'm out of Flashpoint, see you, and just go live in a mansion in Brazil or something like. That might be hard.
Yeah.
Okay, for friberg and Nifty, have these bans changed your mood or perspective about competing online in the future? It's a good question.
You go.
I think there's always like skepticism that has surrounded online play. Like even 2008 or 9, 10, 11, it doesn't matter. Like any of these years, a long time ago. Like even on console games, every game, like there's always skepticism surrounding, cheating or competitive integrity, at stake, when it comes to online play. So like, but it's just what we would have to do to like to be able to cover all those bases, I think, are like something that's beyond me. Like I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows, but I just know that like this is the situation that like kind of we got stuck with. We couldn't really do much about it. It's like COVID and all these things happen. So I don't know. It's like I really think that to handle it too much better than the way that things have been handled, like we'd have to be like some sort of utopian society or something. So I think it's really difficult to kind of handle it any better, honestly. Like I don't know. I just know that like I think with online play, like teams and players, like you have to have a certain mindset, to be able to keep yourself in place and keep each other in place, to be able to play these games, with full force and treat it the same way as I think it's more challenging for teams to be able to do that, than anything else. And it's just like, it's not just like playing, you can't just hop on and play, you've got to do your same routine that you do before a LAN match. You've got to treat it the same way. You got to understand it was crazy seeing like Heroic win ESL Cologne and you just see Cadian in his bedroom and he's like blowing an air horn. It's really weird, but like I imagine that
I'm kind of into it. It's like delightfully scouts.
It's interesting. It's interesting, but I salute, because like they had to really do some things right to be able to get a win in that environment, because it's not just like playing. It's not, you have to do some things differently. You have to change your mentality and you all have to be on the same page as a team together as to how to approach the situation, because it's not anything, it's out of the norm completely. So I don't know. I think online play requires a lot of mental fortitude, even more so than on LAN, honestly. It can be dangerous for some.
What about you, Friberg? Has this changed your mind about competing online, the cheats and everything?
I mean, I think it just motivates like that I really want to go compete in a LAN environment again. I think all players, especially like the top tier teams in the world right now, they really want to go back, because we've seen a lot of changes, especially like if you look on the world ranking and everything. And I think certain teams, I'm not saying teams are cheating, but teams they behave and they play differently at home like than they would probably do in a big stage with a full crowd in front of them. So I don't know. I'm yet again, I'm happy that we are playing Counter-Strike and that we are able to play Counter-Strike from home, whereas many other sports haven't been able to resume play. So yeah, I mean, obviously online for me, it's not as close. Like it's not close at all compared to LAN play. I would much rather would drop out of all the online play just to go to a LAN event again and compete. But I mean, yeah, it's just that, like I said before, like I think in a way the mood is, it's just that, like I said before, people will do anything to get an advantage, even if it's illegal. And I think, I don't know, it's just, in a way it's motivating, but in the same way, you cannot wait to go to a LAN environment where everyone will play at the same PC, everyone has the same, settings, or how to say it. So yeah, there's not much to do. Just
even
hope for the
playing
best.
field, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So in along the other line of players joining, so we've seen some movements from NV. I wanted to ask your thoughts here because it's a great question. Contact is now trialing Spinx and Smooya. So Smooya was competing as part of Chaos in Flashpoint 1 before he had to
got kicked out of the country.
Got kicked out of the country, unfortunately. But was a really fun player to watch. Had that big result where they beat MIBR on LAN in the first match, so that was fun. I was hoping we'd see him again because he's also quite the personality. So what are your thoughts about these two players and them trialing for Contact?
Honestly, I don't know so much about Spinx.
That seems to be the consensus of most people.
Yeah, I really don't know so much about Spinx.
He's
but,
Israeli, right?
Yep.
Hell yeah, I hope he does it for his country.
Yeah, I played quite a bit against him in BL in Europe. like he seems to me like not the classic young FPL player that joins in and just baits everyone and plays for frags. He seems actually to be like a trying actually to improve and trying to help teammates and like have some sort of team play in him. So I think it might be, you know, a good pickup. You've seen Brokey, BMAS, like players getting picked up, even Rops if you look back. So I don't think it's a bad idea to pick off like FPL players, especially if they, you know, they put in the hours, they are really hungry, and they, yeah, I think it's fun to see young players get to the spot. And Smooya, like I think he is individually skilled. I have no idea why it hasn't worked out for him in his previous teams, but like I'm sure that he's aware, and hopefully he's been working on like why he's not been able to stay with his previous teams, and he's individually very good. So yeah, I think it's an exciting pickup for Contact for sure.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Friberg. I can definitely attest to that. Smooya is very good individually, very talented player. It's funny, man. Legia has told some funny stories about Smooya. Yeah, I think that's probably the best part about having Legia around is the fact that he was part of this German roster for so many years.
Yes.
You know, gob stories, all those kinds of things. But I remember him telling me that like when Smoo joined Big, you know, it was different, you know, because they knew that they were going to have to basically teach. Big has this crazy ideal of like how you play CS, you know,
like a whole system, basically. Yeah. It's like if you went, dude. It's like if you went to an NFL team and you've never played their offense before.
It's like some sort of tribe in the middle of like like some sort of ancient tribe, you know, but they're going to teach you their ways, right? And it's like Smoo had to go through that process. And the way that like Smooth strikes me is like just as a person is like he's very like fun heavy, you know, clunky and goofy and fun. That's just his personality. He likes to talk trash. You remember Flashpoint 1, you know, he likes to have fun with all that stuff, and he really translates that to his game as well. And I think that works to his advantage because that's just who he is as a person. You know, so I think slotting him into Big was like a really interesting experience for him. I think he
like not a good choice, but
I think he learned a lot from that experience. But the way that Nico talked about it is like he excelled in some areas, but then there was also just some areas where like it seems like he wasn't able to grasp onto it, you know, and they just wanted to explore other options. And it's like I can tell you right now that like I think Smooya plays CS better than most, especially in the North American region. You know, I know that like we've had thoughts, you know, if like we wanted to explore an Opera, it's like we've had thoughts of Smooya, you know, because he's a very individual player. But you know, it's like everyone knows he's a big personality. He's a big personality. He's got to slot into your team the right way, you know. And it's like if he doesn't fit, then like it might seem weird, you know, it might not work. So yeah, I don't know, man, but
I think I'll give you the analogy, Nifty. It's like the movie Dances with Wolves, except he didn't integrate as well into the tribe as the Kevin Costner character did in that movie. It's a boomer movie because it's from the 90s, you won't know, but it's a movie where, you know, like a guy from the Wild West goes and joins like an Indian tribe. It's quite a good
you
one.
You might have seen this movie.
It rings a bell.
You might have seen this movie called Avatar. It's the good version of that movie. It's the actual good version of that movie.
Without all graphics and shit. Yeah. No, but here's the problem though. I actually think that was an example of where both parties fucked up. Like, it's true, when Smooya joined, first of all, he was very young and he'd never been in any top teams. He'd just been like mixed teams and UK teams. So it's true he wasn't experienced as a pro, and he definitely was a massive arsehole. I can tell you that for a fact. He would even admit it himself. But the other problem, and where Big fucked up, is they really thought they could just bring this guy in. It's like, right, well, he's like a rookie compared to us. So he's going to listen to us and do it. It's like, no. Like, the culture clash was mental in that team because they weren't even like a normal team. Like, they were a super strict team. This is like if you took a fucking UK chav off the fucking council estate and just put him into, like, not boot camp. You just put him into the active German military. Like, that guy wouldn't last 5 minutes.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? So the problem was, like, it's the worst culture clash of all time. Because, dude, these guys just like, drop me the AWP, I'm just going to run and kill everyone.
And this is why can't we have, you know, one of those esports documentary teams within Big to
watch? It'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
I would love to watch that shit.
That would be the best reality show.
Honestly, I really challenge you, Thorin, to get Ligia on here or in a different piece of content and ask him to give you some of the stories about.
I've done it. I do another podcast with him. He's given a few stories.
Yeah, about Gob specifically and his type of leadership, and the way that like in the first 7 days that you're on Gob's team, he's just drilling. He's drilling you, man. He's drilling. I can imagine it. Ligia's told me though that like, oh, like I bet like if you landed on a Gob team though, like you would actually take it pretty well because like you take criticism feedback pretty well. And it's like some people who don't, they just get their dreams crushed by Gob because he has such high expectations and like, he wants.
Dude, put it this way. I don't know if people remember this because it was a bit obscure, but actually there was a period of time, I think it was after Smooya, where they had a player from the German team that they briefly brought into Big to trial. It was called Locker. He was a guy probably a fucking onliner if I remember. Like he wasn't that good. But anyway, when he joined this team, dude, he's even German. And when he joined, he literally, when he left, did a twit longer where no joke, he was basically crying that like when you're in their team, but he was just thinking it was like normal Counter-Strike. So he was playing around. And then when he like fucked up a flash or something, he said that they were all just like screaming at him and he felt like bullied and like, like fucking. And this guy is German. So like, dude, if you think Smooth is going to make in that team, you're like, your motherfucker. Like, it's never going to happen. Never going to happen. I knew that was going to blow up from day one. But whatever. It was a glorious fucking train wreck, wasn't it?
So what do you think about the Smooya and Spinx in contact then, Thorin?
I like the Smooya to contact one. That one seems perfect because it's just a bunch of young fraggers anyway, and they're all from different countries, so you're already mixing a bunch of different personalities in. I also know, off the top of my head, I think Smooya is actually already I know he's very friendly with Neil M, the contact coach, but I also think he's actually friendly with Esperanto, because like Neil M and Esperanto have been in teams before, so I think actually he probably gets along with a bunch of those players, so that's probably a good fit. He's also a very good player. And then actually the Spinx one is interesting because I don't know much about him, but he had been a player that people had hyped a little bit the last few months. So it's always interesting when pros do that because they don't tend to miss on that. It's rare that these like 10 pros say someone's good and up and coming if they're actually just like a one hit wonder who's going to be crap. Like usually they do end up becoming the good players. So actually I think friberg's angle is the most interesting part because initially I assumed, it's just another like BMAS like FPL star. And it's like you're trying to have a less experienced version of FaZe Clan. You've got a bunch of aimers, right? Which actually I think Contact doesn't need any more of. They've already got all those players. So actually, if he's more like a sort of a Rops type thinker guy who actually like understands the game, that's probably what they need. I don't mind that pickup. It's not bad.
There was a question earlier that I can address quickly. Like someone was asking whether Maui Snake and Potter are moving to Valorant. So the answer is I mean, as far as I know, they want to continue doing CS. Right before Valorant, they were doing DreamHack. But remember that the player break was during July, so they had like a lot of extra time to like learn Valorant during that because they knew obviously we were hiring them for this event. So I think it's worth it as an experiment. I don't know what their future plans are for their careers. But, I think it is worthwhile for people to dabble in Valorant in case it gets big or to have those opportunities. And they wanted to work the event and they had additional time to learn up on the game due to the player break. So why not take that opportunity was kind of, I think, the philosophy there.
It may seem like it looks pretty grim in the sense, like right now, at least, the amount of players that have moved to Valorant and even like talent that are dabbling in Valorant. But like, honestly, like if they become the big talent of Valorant, whereas they couldn't become that in CS, right, it's just gonna make more way for more talent to come into CS, in both player and talent regard, and it's like I see it as like a thriving ecosystem. But
yeah, I was actually gonna ask you, and if because I see a lot of players, especially from NA, has moved over to Valorant, especially like the people that maybe didn't make it all the way in CS or former players, the Skidoodle, Swag, and everyone. Like, how do you think that's affecting the CS scene in US or NA right now?
Man, I've been talking about this a lot lately.
Okay.
It's no, it's fine. Like dude, there's only like 6 or 7 teams to practice against. So it's like I don't know if it's actually good that we haven't started yet, but it's the same squad. It's Genji, it's Liquid, it's EG, it's Furia, it's MIBR when they were here, but I don't think they're even here anymore.
No, they're in Serbia.
They're in Europe.
Yeah, they're in Europe, and then it's like Triumph and then Chaos. So there's 7 teams, and then every team outside of that is like who, like so. And it's weird because sometimes these teams, like the way I thought of it is like, dude, NACS might literally die because like if you're Liquid or you're EG or you're any of these teams, like I guess you can hang around the States and you can continue to play in like the different tournaments like Cologne online and like whatever else follows. But the way I see it is like, dude, what's your practice looking like? Like if you're
in 3 teams over and over again, basically, right?
And it's horrid, man. Like if I'm you, I'm going to Europe and I'm now becoming a European-based team. If I'm you. So it's like I wonder what they're up to.
Which TL could technically do. They do have that facility in like Utrecht in Netherlands. So
right. So it's like
technically do it.
Dude, it's a really interesting topic. Like it's a very good question, friberg. But like, yeah, I just know that if we were practicing right now, it would not be so easy, because we don't have the luxury of getting 12 potential different times throughout the day because of all the different teams that practice in EU, and we also don't get to pick and choose like what tier of CS that we play. It's either really, really bad or it's like Liquid, EG, Gen.G, all these teams. And sometimes those teams, they have this weird like ego dynamic of how they approach practice where it's like sometimes some of them just don't even want to practice against your team, because it's some bullshit answer of like, oh, it's like how your team plays in practice. It's like, bro, have you ever watched poker? You can't criticize somebody.
So basically, it's the same like when I played in Optic back in the days. There was like you had a couple of practice games every day. You had to pick from playing like a newcoming Brazilian team or like what was it called, ESEA main.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah,
that sucks.
I think there's one other factor that no one's mentioned as well, which is the big problem is because Valorant came out literally when all the lockdown shit started. That also is a problem because then if you're the guy, like this is like the ultimate example, by the way, and the real tragedy is Wardell. Because if people don't know, I speculated, like, dude, you could have been in Grim's spot in Team Liquid. It's worse than that. Apparently, Stewie said like they would have recruited him. He could have been in Team Liquid right now as their AWPer. But instead, he's like, listen, I mean, he's doing well in Valorant, but that's not the same. Like, it's not as big a game yet. So, but I don't necessarily 100% blame a guy like that because the point is, he tried for years. He was just stuck at the same level. He's been up and down. And then think about it, right? A lockdown happens. You don't know when lands are ever coming back. You don't even know, like maybe it's a year and you've just wasted another year of your Counter-Strike career. Instead, a new game's starting. It hasn't even technically really begun properly as an esports just start. So now for that game, it doesn't really matter as much that it's lockdown. Like, you feel like, oh, the future's all ahead of you. So I feel like that also is pushing some people to make like not panic decisions, but they're just sort of like acting short term,
It also, I think, is disappointing for us as Flashpoint because we have a lot of NA-based orgs, right? And so I think there were a lot of promising players like Wardell or Dapper that were, I think,
could have made a good team out of these players.
Yeah, basically, there were enough of these players that went to Valorant that I think you probably could have made a halfway decent North American roster. So I would have, I think what was so sad about the whole thing was that the timing was sort of in the middle of Flashpoint, and I think that if the game had come out after Flashpoint ended, that a lot of those players would have been signed to Flashpoint rosters, but a lot of them, by the time Flashpoint was over, had already transitioned over to Valorant or were looking for offers from teams within Valorant itself, right? So I think the timing was just kind of bad. I think some of those players will probably come back to CS in the long run, just because, like, let me put it this way, like, obviously, Sentinels is doing super well right now, and Dapper is on that roster, but everyone now knows who Dapper is as a result of Valorant. Everybody knows that Wardell is super good as a result of Valorant. So I don't think maybe they will stick with Valorant, but there's also a world where they get an offer from a Counter-Strike team because now they're higher profile and people have an idea of their abilities within tactical shooters that they wouldn't necessarily have had before. In the same way that Sinatra got a shot on Sentinels because of his reputation within Overwatch League, which is an entirely different genre. So it was a much bigger risk, right? Much bigger.
Thing is, though, that what's brutal to me is like for example, obviously FPX currently officially does not have a team, and if people don't know, after the whole Heroic deal didn't work out, they were one of the orgs that, because they have the money but they just don't have any players or connections yet, they were even thinking about maybe we make a team from scratch, maybe you bring in the free agent. Well, here's the thing, right? When you think of some of the pieces out there, right? You as your IGL, you could have like Alex if you've got the money, you could have had Snappy in the past, you could have had Lecro. Then you add around a player like that. People like Grim, Ward, you've already almost towards like a team that could be like top 10 if everything goes amazing. Yeah, on the high end, but like that wouldn't be a joke. Like that team would compete in Flashpoint for sure. They'd be good. So like I know the big problem is, like I say, a lot of those guys made their decision very quickly.
Yes.
They did it like instantly. In fact, some of them did it before Flashpoint ended. So I don't blame them for doing the move.
Wardell and Sub Rosa
sort of giving it a moment.
Yeah, Wardell and Sub Rosa were already checked out in the middle of the Flashpoint playoffs. Like we know that happened, and that's fine. Like makes sense. They didn't have an org. Go hard on that game. Get picked up by TSM. Like it worked out for them. Props to them. But I do think that if they had just a little bit more patience, like another month, that things might have changed.
Yeah, you can't know what would happen.
It's kind of like, you ever seen like that graphic where like the guy's mining and then they're like this close to the diamonds? Yeah, it's kind of like that, And it's funny because the guy who makes that decision never really knows if they were actually
exactly. Yeah. But Stewie was brutal because, dude, normally it'd just be speculation, but he even said sort of like, I'd love to have got Wardell or something. Like, Jesus Christ.
I saw a question way earlier in the chat. It was asking me like, are there any players that switched to Valorant that you would have liked to have seen stay because maybe they would join your team? And like the first name that popped in my mind was Dapper, because like Dapper for a while has
really
been
skilled guy.
Developing his voice. So kind of like that leader position. So it's like when I think about structure of a CS team, it's like, okay, co-leader, you know what I mean? Like that secondary caller voice. It's like, wow, like Dapper could really be that. And also like he's a very skilled player, and the only thing I heard briefly was just like attitude things, but like, man, those things can be worked out, bro. That but Dapper was the name that shot into my head.
Indeed. Well, we're over time, guys, so I think that'll do it. Thank you for joining us, everybody, for the Flashpoint Q&A. Again, to reiterate, first off, if you missed this, it'll be on the YouTube channel tomorrow. Second off, just to reiterate, we are looking at doing Flashpoint as a LAN event at the end of November. We will confirm that with you in the future as we try and make sure that everything can be done safely and properly for the players. So we talked about a bunch of the band stuff earlier if you want to look at that. We will be back next week, probably with some updates on that whole situation. And until then, thank you for joining us, friberg and Nifty.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.